Hey everybody, welcome to Shelf Life, the monthly series where I look at games I covered several months back and let you know if they're still in my collection. I took a month off in June to do a top 10 list, but now we're back looking at games I covered in January of this year. We've got 10 of them, and many of you entered in the contest guessing which ones I would keep and cull. At the end of the video, we'll find out who the big winner is, getting a free game from my collection. But for now, let's jump in and find out which of these games had shelf life. First is a Kickstarter game, Pingyao, a solo and competitive economic game set in ancient China. And probably not surprising to many of you, this was a no for me. I don't tend to love Euros, although economic ones are often higher in my esteem. But that being said, Pingyao is a fun design and I did enjoy it, especially the simple dice placement, trying to figure out how to move your wealth around your different bank branches and your loans, trying to make your money work for you. I definitely enjoyed my plays and the expansion adds to the variety greatly, but for my taste, not exceptional enough to back. Second is by Stealth NC, a solo and cooperative war game of daring sub-attacks in World War II. And this one is definitely hanging on, at least for now. Once I play through the campaign a few times, I might pass it along. But as I said in my review, this game is tense and exhilarating. Every die roll could mean disaster or triumph. You have really tough choices every turn of how quickly you push the pace of the game, how much you risk. Although I should also note that's probably the part that could fall flat the most for gamers because there is a lot of luck and a lot of randomness and it might be frustrating. For me though, I found it exciting. Third is Maeshowe, a solo and cooperative card game of desperate survival. And this is another Kickstarter that I enjoyed but didn't back, kind of like Doom Machine from a previous episode. I do like these smaller, quick-playing games, but it's not really how my gaming time and preferences run. I like to set up something that's more like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, have a more epic experience, and these are fine but tend not to offer the variety and lasting power I enjoy. But speaking of a much bigger game, also on Kickstarter, we have our number 4, Primal. And this one, a giant, epic, solo and cooperative boss battler. Heck yes, I went in for. Although, full disclosure, they did offer me a copy to review down the line, but if they hadn't, I would have at least gone in for the core set. Now, I don't love giant miniatures, so I doubt I would have paid the extra, whatever it was, $100 or $200 to get everything, but certainly I would not have let this one pass me by. And I've continued to play the content they have on Tabletop Simulator. We did a stream game of it recently, and I just love this one. It has really tough, interesting card play, kind of reminiscent of Marvel Champions, great diversity between the enemies you fight and the heroes you control. Now, I still don't know much about some components of the game, like the overall campaign structure and crafting and that kind of stuff, but the pure battle between the heroes and the monsters, even though you don't have a giant map, you just have 4 quadrants, it's just so deep and interesting and varied, and I am really excited about this one. Next is Adventure Tactics, a solo and cooperative tactical combat game with a great leveling system. And this one I didn't keep. Peter absolutely adores this game, so he basically ripped it from my hands. Although with crawlers and tactical combat games not always being my favorite these days, I might not have kept it anyway, but I do want to highlight how ridiculously fun leveling up in this game is, and the combat is good, the variety of bosses is fun too. They had a new Kickstarter with a smaller campaign that's added on, so I'm glad they're doing more content. Definitely a fun one to check out if you like boss battlers or dungeon crawlers or anything like that. Number 6 is Adrenaline, a competitive deathmatch battle game that got an official solo mode added on. And I didn't keep this one either, but I do want to say I like how Adrenaline doesn't have much luck. Pretty much everything is fully controlled and deterministic, and I really like the variety in weapons and the tactics you can use with them. But for me, competitive was tough to get to the table. It doesn't really work that great with 2 players. I think you really need 3 or more. And while the solo mode was a wonderful, generous addition at the cost of free, the puzzle in that mode didn't offer the variety I would want to play it more than maybe 4 or 5 times. Next is Root, the competitive asymmetric area control game with solo and cooperative play through the Clockwork expansion. And yes, here's one of the many boxes I have. If you don't know, this is one of my top games of all time. I really love throwing a bunch of different factions into the mix and seeing how the Automa face me down. Now that being said, I actually did not buy into the most recent campaign because I feel like I have enough materials at this point, and the other factions I I want to try have their Automa online, so I don't have to buy the second Clockwork expansion to try them. And I've said this before, but I tend to like the unofficial Automa by the Automa designer and how they've been tweaked over what's officially printed, so I feel pretty good with my current holdings, and I don't expect them to go anywhere anytime soon. Next is Exceed, the head-to-head card-based battler game that I designed an unofficial solo mode for. And that last part probably gave the answer away. I have all of Season 2, all of Season 3, all of Season 4, and I'll probably at some point buy into the most recent season, Blaze Blue Season 5. Now, it's tough to say whether I like BattleCon or Exceed more for the level 99 fighting games, and then I also went all in on the Sakura Arms Kickstarter, so eventually I might have too many, but I love these games. I've been playing them a ton with my son. My solo mode, I'm really proud for how both of them for BattleCon and Exceed turned out. Definitely makes it easier to get to the table, so Exceed is a big recommend from me, especially if you like head-to-head combat games and fighting games in general. Next at number 9, we have Core Worlds Nemesis, the expansion for the competitive deck-building game Core Worlds that adds solo play. And this one is a little more complicated than most. I didn't personally back it because Peter owns all the Core Worlds stuff. I actually borrowed his copy to make the video, but that being said, I'm really looking forward to playing it with him and borrowing it. I think Core Worlds is a fantastic deck builder design, and I think the solo mode plays really smoothly and should make it a lot easier to get to the table, so well done there. And last we have the Snallygaster Situation, a cooperative kids on bikes Stranger Things-like adventure where you're trying to stop a big bad from destroying your town. And this is one last one that I didn't go in for and pre-order. I thought it was pretty fun, but you can only play it cooperatively because one player has hidden information, so without the solo play it'd be tougher for me to get to my table consistently. And on top of that, I got the feeling from my prototype plays that playing against the same demon or enemy would be a pretty similar experience each time, so with there being I think 4 of them, you're looking at maybe 8 to 12 good plays of the game, which is totally fine and reasonable, but I already got about that many plays when I was reviewing it, so I didn't feel the need to have the official copy. Alright, so there we go, another month down, 4 games kept out of 10, not a terrible month, and if you want to hear the results of the contest, see who won, hang on for the last part of the video, but otherwise I'll see you next month for another episode of Shelf Life. Alright everybody, time for the contest, but first some results. Let's see how our accuracy was. So this month we had over 130 entrants to the contest, thanks everybody for participating, and the one that surprised people the most, a keeper, by Stealth and Sea, only a third of you thought I would keep it, and Exceed was not close behind with 39% keeping, and then Adventure Tactics was the one that people were most surprised that I called. 58% of you thought I would keep it, 42% said call. Core Worlds Nemesis was right in the middle. Then we have a big jump, lots of confidence on the last 6 items on the list. Root was a 72% keeper, Adrenaline a 74% call, and Primal, the one you were most confident I would keep. 77% of you voted correctly there. And then rounding things out, all calls for our 3 top correct vote getters. Maeshowe 80%, Snallygaster 86%, Pingyao 87%, kind of a tie there. No one really thought I would keep those. But now getting to the truly exciting part, the contest. We had no one, 0 people nail it 10 for 10 this month, but we had a bunch of people get 9 out of 10. You see their names on the screen now. And in case you're confused by some names repeating, don't forget that if you are a Patreon supporter, you get double entries in our contests. So all of the yellow highlighted ones are a double entry. Bracken, Raphael, Patrick, Charles, Brian, and Corey. So we're looking for a number 1 through 16 on a 17 to 20. I will re-roll it. And here we go. 19, re-roll. Here we go again. 13. Which means this month's Shelf Life winner is Brian Busha, which actually is kind of randomly fitting because Brian helped me out a lot with the Exceed solo variant. He did a lot of playtesting for it. So there you go, Brian. All your hard work finally paid off. So thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next month for more Shelf Life.